It was about time I got this done, and honestly it didn't take as long as I thought it would. I got pretty much every villager book I'd ever need, all discounted to a point where it wouldn't be a problem if I ever lost my gear. I also probably got way more than I would ever need, but that means the library is finally done. And someone is clearly excited about it. Before this video starts fully though, I do want to stop and talk about a few inconsistencies you may see in the rest of the video. My hard drive that I stored all of my footage on ended up breaking, leaving me with quite a lot of footage gone. Luckily, the time lapses that are recorded with replay mods stay saved in a different location since I don't delete them, but a large amount of other stuff, like material gathering footage and explanation footage, are completely gone. And since some of the builds were already there by the time it had broken, I couldn't get a proper clip of me looking at the area talking about it beforehand. With all that said though, the first thing I did was gather materials for a pond that I needed done for the next building in the village. It wasn't too much, just basically a random assortment of blue blocks, and with those gathered, I started building. Landscaping and scenery building has always been what I love doing most in Minecraft. And after a while of building houses and farms, I was happy for a change. I've learned a lot of cool tricks since I've started, one of them being this funky design that you can see as the floor of the pond. It was mainly intended at first for non-shaders, but I think it still looks nice even if it's a little harder to see through the water. I ended up going with two separate ponds at different elevations so that I could have a little waterfall going from the two, which would be important for the next building. I tried to make a lot of the placements of these builds actually make sense in the world, like having them being filled from somewhere in the mountains, and also having a relatively natural stream with each other. A lot of my favorite parts come from the little details sprinkled around the water. Things like drip leaves and lily pads. A couple years ago I saw this really cool lily pad design somewhere, and I've used it every time since I think it adds a nice touch to them. Another, more popular trick is the cattails with candles and glass panes, which I think adds a lot to the whole pond even if they're small details. This video is going to be a lot of building progress for the city, with my next goal being to gather resources for the second building of our town, the Fletcher. I ended up going with a similar color palette to the library, with the only real difference being white colored blocks, which I used as a way to distinguish the two, as well as a few other little details that you'll see in the build. With all the materials gathered up and ready to go, I got the shulker boxes lined up and began building. When I went about designing the different buildings for our little town, I wanted to have something common that would tie all the buildings together, as well as specific features that make it easy to tell which building is which. You can see that in the book that's stationed on top of the library. The bottom floor, or the store area of the Fletcher, has the same block palette as the library, and that'll most likely stay pretty consistent with some of the buildings you'll see later, having some sort of variation of the blocks to tie them all together. One thing I thought to do specifically was have the same roof blocks and design for each building, since even if the walls are different, having the roofs be the same is enough to tie them together. When I was first coming up with the ideas about this village, I knew I wanted to have none of the buildings shaped conventionally, with there being no symmetry in the roofs and the walls being constantly different heights. It's obviously not very practical, but I think it looks really nice, and adds a little bit of charm to each building to make them all stand out among the rest. Like I said earlier, I decided on white for the upper layer of this building, mainly because wool is white, and I figured the Fletcher would probably be using a lot of that in their work. And I think the white and brown ended up tying together really well. The main feature of this building, and why I needed the pond next to it, is the water wheel. From my vague knowledge, pulling string requires some sort of rotational force, and what better way to do that than a wheel connected to the house? Of course, I also had to add a small archery range, since the whole point of the Fletcher was bows and arrows, and what's the point in making them if you can't test them out on the property? And with the targets all set up, the Fletcher exterior is completed. I'm really happy with the way this building came together, with the pond next to it and the wheel, the archery range, and just the building itself. I think it turned out really nice. Of course, I gotta test out the range to make sure it works, and definitely hit a bullseye. I really like the design of the wheel, and although it doesn't actually spin, I think it looks really cool with our beautiful ponds. The interior is very empty, but that'll get done soon, don't worry. Before we move on to this building over here, I think I want a little bit of a break from building, because that's kind of all I've been doing this episode so far. We did the pond, the Fletcher, and I want a little bit of a change of pace. So I think what I'm going to do is go get some netherite, because all I have right now are these two tools, and I'd like to have at least all of my tools upgraded, because they run out of durability so fast, and I don't have a very good farm or anything to actually repair them. So I think going and doing that right now would be a good idea, just to get my mind off of building for a little bit. It's not going to take long, so this isn't going to be like a major journey. It's not like we're going to build a farm or anything, but let's do that real quick, get my netherite, and then we'll come back to finishing this building over here. So yeah, let's fly over to the nether portal, maybe grab some beds so I'm not sitting there breaking all the netherrack, and go get enough netherite for all of our tools. I completely forgot that I turned all of my sheep blue, so I guess we're using blue beds for this. Right, about here should be good. So we'll just like this, and then... Oh, doing this with shaders is gonna be hard. Oh, we already found some. Is that 2 pieces? 1, 2. Yeah, I think that's it. Alright, I have officially run out of beds at 19 ancient debris, which isn't too bad. That's quite a bit. I think I'm going to just mine a little bit for the rest, see if I can get a little more before my pickaxes run out of durability, and then we'll head home. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop here. My pickaxe is almost broken. I have 26 ancient debris, so going back and getting beds probably would have been more efficient, and I guess we'll keep that in mind for if I do go back, because I think I only gained like 7 or 8 ancient debris with 2 pickaxes, and I had like 16 or 17 with all of my beds, so I have no idea how to get out of here. Okay, I found it. Grab our scrap. And some gold. And then we will start upgrading. We'll do that, that, that. And then we actually do have enough for our full set of armor. And then helmet, chestplate, that. Perfect. We are all kitted out. So yeah, now that we're all kitted out, let's start working on this. Like I mentioned earlier, I want each of these buildings to be relatively consistent in color. And I decided with this one I would do that in the form of the balcony that we've been doing on all the other ones. I really like the jungle for some reason. It's never been a block that I've experimented with before, but it's a really nice add-on to oak. I wanted the bottom of this one to reflect the actual building that it is, with the stonemasons having a rocky brick foundation to support the stones that they're storing in the building. I put a few different entrances into it, with the one on the porch leading straight in, and the one on the front leading to what will be a stone working room of sorts. Instead of doing the foundation all stone, I mixed in some whiter blocks to add variation, with signs as a transition between them. Topping the bottom off, I did a tuff roof with a couple of different chimneys and vents dotted around to fit the working area theme of it. The actual apartment part of the building is where I tied the theme of the village into it, with the brown color scheme of the walls and the pointed dark oak roof to make it fit in. The final step was the actual stone collection system, which I put together on the end of the balcony, leading into a small control room in the main floor. Underneath the crane will be a little quarry where the village's stone will be collected to fuel the various stone projects the village needs it for. And with that, the Mason house is completed. I'm really happy with this one. I think the design of it is really strong all around, and all the little details everywhere, like the crane, the machinery going into this building, even the stuff on the roof, like the vents. I just think it all turned out very, very cool. There's a couple small details like the banners coming out of the windows, like curtains. The signs, kind of like a divider in between the two colors. I think it's all just very cool, and I think this might be my favorite building that we've done so far. Unfortunately though, I think we are going to end this episode here. My plan for the next one is to do some actual decoration around the village, like custom trees, the interiors of these two houses, and like things like this river and some greenery, just to kind of tie all the buildings together and make it look like an actual location, rather than 3 buildings just plastered into the floor. And if I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, I think it's better if I just cut it here, so we can have one video dedicated to the design process, how I come up with certain things, so that you guys can maybe come up with stuff like this in your own world. Overall though, I'm really happy with the progress we made today. I really like the pond, the Fletcher house I think is really cool, and the stonemason house over there is just really cool as well. Thank you so much for sticking it around to the end of this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. See you then.